college football winning percentages in the BCS and college football playoff era. All of our graphics put out there at Next Round Live on social media. You can follow us there, Instagram, TikTok, the X, Facebook, and Next Round Live everywhere. Brooks puts those out. So, Brooks, walk us through this. You're looking at just college football winning percentages in the BCS and college football playoff era, right?
Correct. This is I like to use this era a lot. I mean, I think it's the first defined era of having a championship game, a true champion. I know we kind of had that with the Bowl Coalition and stuff at some point in the 90s, but you didn't have that true 1 versus 2 or national champion until the Rose Bowl started to participate in it. So since 1998 until where we presently sit, I believe it's 28 seasons that we've been in this era now. Ohio State, I mean, has just been feasting on Big Ten.
Not surprising. I mean, they're a machine.
Look how far
as far as wins go.
Look how far ahead they are of everyone, though.
I know.
Specifically, power conference opponents. I mean, number 2 is Boise State, but I mean they're way out in front. I think someone replied to our tweet and said that's an average of about 11-2 season every year.
Do you have, I mean, just a wild guess, or you may actually know the answer, how many wins does that represent in front of Boise? So an 832, for those that can't see, wait a minute, the wins are on there, Ryan.
Yeah, I have the records.
All I got to do is zoom in.
Right
832 to 792, 302 wins to 286 wins. You're right. That is a significant difference.
They're the only
over that
team
period
in the 300s.
of time.
They're the only team in the 300s. So,
yeah. So Georgia third, which, the Mark Richt era didn't produce a national championship, but it was a pretty consistent era. I mean, you could kind of count on Richt for most years to contend for double-digit wins, and that was back in an 11-game schedule, so you're including the bowl game there. But Richt, I mean, it feels like I'd have to go pull up his record, but it feels like there were a lot of double-digit win seasons in there for Mark Richt. And then when Kirby took over, it was next level.
Yeah, definitely. I want to say I think it was 2009 was kind of that pivotal moment where Mark Richt kind of had to coach his way off the hot seat. He went 6-7, lost to UCF in a Liberty Bowl game, and then wound up kind of riding the ship and made back-to-back SEC champion. Actually, I think he might have made 2 or 3 SEC championship games in a row, and really turned it around. But I want to say he had a 6-7 season and maybe 1 or 2 8-5 seasons, but had a 10-win season every year aside from that. So very consistent for sure. And then, I guess you get a little bit of Jim Don in there at the beginning of that era. So, and he wasn't awful.
Now, with more wins but a worse win percentage because there are 2 more losses is Alabama. I mean, Georgia and Alabama are just about identical. Georgia at 288 and 83. 776 win percentage. Bama at 289 and 85, a 773 win percentage. They're asking in the chat, did you account for thrown out wins or were these actual on-field results?
These are actual on-field results. I use StatHead, which is a product of Sport Reference, and they acknowledge all on-field wins when looking at this. It's not taken from like Wikipedia or anything like that. So this is this accounts for.
I need that login
wins.
because every time I look at a coach's record, I get pissed because Wikipedia backs out the vacated wins. So it makes it so hard to see. I mean, and there are a lot of coaches that have had to vacate wins, by the way.
Just a disclaimer, I never exclude wins that were vacated in anything that I do in our graphics, which is
that's our stance on this show, and it has been for a long time. We saw the games. They can vacate them all they want, but I saw them played, right?
Yeah, and LSU fans always get fired up because they're like, USC was not a national champion in 2004 or 2003.
Yeah. Yeah. Oklahoma at 771, they are 283 and 84, so they're right behind Georgia and Alabama. So current SEC teams, you got Oklahoma right behind Georgia and Alabama. One thing that I talk about a lot with Oklahoma, and I think people, I don't know, I think they get sucked in, like in this whole Texas-Oklahoma debate. Oklahoma historically is the much better program than Texas. And I would say much better. When I said much better, that probably sounded like an overstatement, and you could disagree with me, obviously, but I would say Oklahoma the much better program historically than Texas.
Yeah, especially here in the modern era. You look at the Big 12 came around in 1996. Oklahoma, I mean, I want to say won almost a third or more of the Big 12 championships during their time in that conference. Once Bob Stoops got there, starting in, I think, 99, within 2 years had them winning a 2 or 3 years had them winning a national championship. They were a consistent 10, 11, 12-win team most of his time there, and then followed that up with Lincoln Riley having a really good run there, continuing to win Big 12 titles. They feasted on Big 12 competition for a very long time. Texas was really good in the 2000s under Mac Brown, but really fell off for about a decade.
Well, to my point here, just in this window you're looking at, what you said was 28 seasons. Oklahoma is almost 30 full wins in front of Texas, just in that small, relatively small data set. I guess that's about a quarter of football history if you think about it that way. They've been playing this thing for a little more than 100 years. So in about a quarter of that history, Oklahoma is almost 30 wins ahead of them.
Yeah, and I've done a graphic where you break it down by most wins per decade, and
right.
Oklahoma and Texas were Oklahoma, Texas, and Boise State were your three winningest programs in the 2000s. Oklahoma remained in the top five in the 2010s, and Texas was nowhere to be seen. So they really separated themselves, I think, in the modern era from a historical perspective from their rival counterpart there.
All right, what surprised you and building? We'll get to Auburn in a second. What surprised? I'll tell you. Can I tell you what surprised me?
Sure, yeah.
I'm going to have to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 12, 13, 14. You got to go to 14 to find Notre Dame. I feel like if I take any 25-year slice of college football, I shouldn't have to go 14 deep to find Notre Dame in terms of winning percentage. Would you not agree with that?
Well, see, I think the biggest thing there is, what did Brian Kelly get to Notre Dame? I want to say 2009 or 10 when he left Cincinnati and came there. I want to say he started in 2010 there. That's at that point 12, 13 seasons into this era. And after Lou Holtz left Notre Dame, up until Brian Kelly got there, they were not very good. I think they had one 10 or 11 win season, under Charlie Weiss, where they went to the Sugar Bowl and got, skull drugged by LSU. But they were not a good football program. They kind of almost turned into the Dallas Cowboys of college football in the late 90s into the 2000s there. In fact, I kind of associate them in my head. As a child, I thought of Notre Dame and the Cowboys in a similar vein as this, dynasty classic football team that is not relevant anymore.
So Auburn fans are going to look at this graphic and they're going to say, holy crap, 27th. I knew it had been bad of late, but this accounts for basically half of Tuberville, all of Chiswick, all of Malzahn, all of Harsin, all of Freeze. And they are 6'10", and that is 216 and 138. It hasn't been great of late, obviously. We've documented the heck out of that. Post Malzahn, they have not had a winning season. So that contributed to some of this, but that is another surprise of mine when I look at this is how low I find Auburn in this. They're 27th in terms of win percentage.
Can I tell you where they would have been? I redid this and looked at it, where they would have ranked in this prior to the beginning of the Brian Harsin era. So after Gus Malzahn.
Okay, so this is after Gus. Yeah.
After Gus got fired in 2020, Auburn would have been 21st with a 647 win percentage and a record of 189 and 103.
So they would have essentially been what Virginia Tech is.
Yes.
Roughly. So you'd move up a whole line on there, pretty much. BYU or Virginia Tech, somewhere in there.
Yeah, and they would move ahead of they would be right beside Notre Dame, in fact. If it cut off at 2020.
Yeah, there are a lot of teams bunched up there. You're right.
They would be ahead of BYU, Louisville, Nebraska would have cracked in here, West Virginia, Toledo, Oklahoma State, Kansas State, Marshall, Texas A&M, Iowa, Cincinnati. They would have been ahead of several teams. So it's amazing what one bad era of football can do. This is one of the worst eras of Auburn football, and it's amazing what it can do to you all time. Similarly, Tennessee. Think about the fact that they're even on here is surprising to me, considering how horrific they were from 2008 through I mean, I want until Josh Heupel got there
I
in
mean,
2021.
but isn't it funny? This has been considered one of the more consistent eras of Iowa football and one of the worst eras of Tennessee football, and they're identical, right? I mean,
Yeah,
it just shows you obviously the difference of those two programs.
Same record and everything.
Identical.
Yeah, I actually posted the Spider-Man meme yesterday, quoting this graphic of them pointing at each other. So,
am I right? The top Group 5 team is Toledo. Am I right about that? I would not have guessed that one.
Boise, but
Boise. I'm sorry. Yeah. Let me rephrase that. The top non-Boise Group 5 team is Toledo. The number 2 Group 5 team is Toledo. That's surprising to me. I didn't know they had that kind of success.
Yeah, and I think historically they have been one of the most consistent programs in the MAC. You think about there's been a couple of times where you've had the MAC, bust in a BCS or a New Year's Six bowl with Northern Illinois and Western Michigan, but Toledo is one of those programs that I think has consistently won 8, 9, 10 games every year. The other one is Ohio. Right. A lot of these graphics that I've done since the CFP era, starting in 2014, Ohio always shows up in there too. And then the other G5 team showing up is Marshall, which includes in '98 they moved up from being a FCS powerhouse and actually went 13-0 in 1998, coming off Chad Pennington, Randy Moss era. So they've been pretty consistent too.
All right, one more Brooks graphic in a moment that's going to get me to a stat that I found amazing, and I'm going to credit SEC numbers guy for doing his work on this one. This is a tough one.